You're listening to
They're going to call it a hard foul. They're going to call it a hard foul.
offering in-depth analysis on all things Boston Celtics with your hosts, Jim and Mike Quigley.
All right, welcome to Hard Foul. Mike, it's been a while since we've talked to the world about the Celtics. In fact, it's been 3 games. And lots got on. They're 2-1, losing to the Warriors, beating the Nets, beating the Bucks. Jaylen Brown made his return against the Bucks. Giannis, Jaylen Brown kind of back and forth. And I think we can talk about Giannis and potentially being a dirty player if there's a beef between him and the Celtics and the direction the Bucks are going. And of course, there's always a lot going around in the league with the Cavaliers still being 12-0. There's so much crap to talk about, Mike. I'll just let you kind of, take us where we want to go. But maybe it's to start with how teams are kind of playing the Celtics a little bit right now.
They show up every night. It's whether it be the Nets played the Celtics hard. Milwaukee came out playing hard. Obviously, Golden State was executing and also playing hard. I think this is a great start by the Celtics. I think being 9-2 is pretty impressive coming off a championship season. When really a couple things fall their way, a couple shots go in, they could be 11-0 very easily right now. And sure, there's some flaws that you can pick at, but I mean, they're executing down the stretch. They've come out strong this season. They've come out where they haven't been ready, and then they look like they're going to lose, and they find themselves right back in the game. So they're resilient. They're playing with guys down. I think they might even have guys playing a little hurt right now. I'm impressed with the way they're playing. I got to be honest. I know they didn't execute at the end of the game against Golden State. Their defense certainly has its flaws and showed up in Golden State, but I think we got to give them a pass too, because they showed us last year how good they are executing at the end of games. And these things are going to happen. They're going to have losses this year. They're probably going to have some ugly ones, because I feel like it's probably pretty hard to match that intensity that teams are bringing to them every night throughout an entire season. But thus far, through 11 games, I feel like the Celtics have been right there.
Yeah, no, they've been obviously pretty good, 9-2, and they've done it with guys missing games. Brown missed 3 in a row, and I don't think he's really been himself for quite a while. The shooting numbers kind of bear that out. But yeah, no, and you've seen teams take a different approach, and I think maybe it works when Brown was out. It would be interesting to see if it works when he's back and playing at a high level. But Brooklyn and Golden State really played the Celtics physical and tried to beat them to their spot, try to take them off their spot. And I thought they were effective doing that. And they were able to really offensive rebound against the Celtics quite well. And I know, again, they were kind of short, even inside, as Cornette was out in those games. But I thought they did a good job of getting the Celtics out of rotation. Even the Nets, it's easier to say with Steph Curry because Steph's such a weapon and you're kind of adjusting to what Golden State does with him. But I thought the Nets on offense were able to put the Celtics in tough spots. And even when they missed, they were in position to, clean up the glass and get a second opportunity at it. It's, does that work when Brown's in? I think that probably not as well as, the Nets in. Golden State, on top of being physical, were putting 2 on the ball against Tatum, and his teammates weren't always making shots. But it was an interesting approach, and it definitely bothered the Celtics in those 2 games. And if we're being fair, I thought the Nets, for the most part, outplayed the Celtics for the vast majority of that game. And you can make an argument that they deserve the win. The Celtics kind of gutted it out. I thought Tatum kind of put the team on the back from the third quarter on. And, you've had a team now that, just going to right what you're talking about. Teams are coming out flying and playing with a lot of intensity because of who the Celtics are. And I think in the case against the Bucks, the most recent game, you had a really desperate team, a team that was coming in, what were they, 2-8, and really needed a win. And you've had two games in a row where the Celtics have started the game down 16-2, and they've won both now.
Yep.
Which is it's good and bad, right? You don't want to get down 16-2. That's a trend that they should break. They usually, for the most part this season, they've been excellent in the first quarter. And despite going down 16-2 against the Bucks, I think they still finished the quarter with 30 points. And we're down 10. But, it's not a position that you want to be in. The difference, I think, Mike, and we can get right into this Bucks game, which has got a lot of interesting elements to it, is I think the difference between the Bucks and the Nets and the Warriors. I thought the Nets and Warriors brought the intensity to the Celtics, and I thought their defense and physicality was impressive, especially with the Nets because of the limitations they have with their roster. I think the coaching they're really taken to there, you can tell. And I thought the Celtics really had to adjust to that as the game went on before they got into any type of flow and any rhythm whatsoever. As for the Bucks, I didn't see the game that way. Maybe you saw it differently than me, but I saw this as a team, that was making everything they threw up in that first quarter in particular. Giannis, hits a pull-up three, his first three-pointer of the season. I didn't think were that good defensively, the Bucks, ever in the game. Even, when they were going on their runs, I thought it was more about what the Celtics weren't doing on offense and what the Bucks were doing. And I thought there was maybe a 5-6 minute period, maybe a little bit longer that between the first and second quarter, end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter, the Celtics let their guard down a little bit defensively. But beyond that, I thought it was, one of those situations where luck and made shots was really swinging the Bucks' way when they had the ball. And then, that thing kind of evened out in the second half, and the Celtics amped up their intensity. It kept their intensity up, and the Bucks just weren't able to match it, whether it's a want to or a can do because of their roster capabilities. I was not like I opened this pod saying I was impressed with the Warriors and the way the Nets approach things. There was nothing that really impressed me outside of Giannis, and what he can do. And he had another just brilliant night, 40 plus points, rebounds, assists, all those things. But beyond that, there's nothing to me that's impressive about the Bucks. That looks like a dead ass team to me.
Yeah, I think they're dumb too, on top of it, with some of the technical fouls they picked up in a really great game, a really close game, that they needed to get their season going. I think from the Bucks' perspective, they would say they played hard. I don't know if they necessarily know how to bring the intensity for a full game, like you saw from a younger Brooklyn Nets team, or even a more hungry Brooklyn Nets team, or a better coach Brooklyn Nets team. But those delay a game technical fouls that they got, just handing away points and then just shoving guys on defense right in front of the refs and putting guys to the line, were just lazy fouls by a lazy team that isn't locked in defensively. They have their deficiencies, certainly defensively, because of Damian Lillard, but you can make up for that by playing hard. And I thought they did play hard for the first half. I thought that in the second half, when the Celtics really put it to them, especially on the defensive side, the Celtics held Milwaukee, I think, to like 38 points in the second half. The Bucks kind of shut it down. The Celtics were getting a lot more open looks, and that team, it's inexcusable to be where they're at. And I wonder if they regret firing Adrian Griffin last year when they were 33-12. And right now they're 2-8. It's just a mess. They can fire their coach. They have a head coach who coached the Lakers last year in hand. They have pieces they can move if they wanted to, I guess. But yeah, it's just a mess. But I don't want to take away from the Celtics. They were down 16-2.
Oh, sure.
They did what they were supposed to do. They attacked
Down
Damian
17
Lillard.
at one point too, right?
Yeah, they attacked Damian Lillard over and over again. They found that matchup.
Yeah.
That's what the Celtics do. They do it better than most teams. They find the matchup they want to go after, and they just expose it. And you're right. You're right about the Nets. The Nets may have outplayed the Celtics. I mean, Finney Smith was giving Tatum fits for most of that game. His defense on the perimeter, and then Dennis Schroeder, who's having a really good season, by the way. The Celtics just couldn't keep him out of the paint. So, yeah, I would say at this point in the season, the Nets are probably a more scary opponent as I look at that on Wednesday night as a possible loss on the second night of a back-to-back because they're going to bring it than I would if the Celtics were playing Milwaukee on a back-to-back.
Yeah,
That's not a good place for Milwaukee. That team is a mess.
Yeah, I know it's a mess. And you say you regret the Adrian Griffin. I wonder if they regret making this Damian Lillard trade because he just does not look like the same guy anymore to me.
Yeah.
He's never really been that good defensively, but he's total minus on that end. And then he still comes off screens really hard and fast and gives you defense fits there, but that doesn't look to be the same guy with that same explosive step on the offensive side either. And I've watched him a few times this year. I'm not going to say I watch the Bucks every night, but I've watched him a few times, and he does not look like the same guy to me at all. And then, but on the flip side, you got a guy like Peyton Pritchard, and thank God for him in that first half against the Bucks, because otherwise, this lead would have been even bigger. He loves to kill the Bucks in the first half. 17 first half points. You've mentioned him. I think early in the season, there's a real chance he's the sixth man of the year candidate. And he brings it on both ends. Despite his limitations because of size on the defensive side. So, another game where Pritchard really came up big for them. I thought he was really good against the Nets as well. And helped them over there. And those are the types of guys that you need.
Pritchard and Kata, they have really saved the bench with other guys really drastically underperforming, like Sam Hauser and Tillman. Pritchard is picking up obviously the points, and Cade is just coming in and giving the Celtics huge minutes in big moments. He has his flaws and makes mistakes, but overall, very, very productive.
Yeah, no, there's elements to Cade's game that you have to love. His ability to, we talked about it with Rob, and he's not Rob. But his ability to space the floor, because he can get above the rim. There's obviously he's a good rim protector. Probably can get better with time. You talked
great
about
offensive rebounder,
really good offensive rebounder, and there's things he needs to learn. And sometimes it looks like he doesn't quite know where to take off from. He'll struggle to finish. He'll bring the ball down. Defensively, he still gets out of position sometimes. And, even on lobs, it sometimes feels like he jumps too late on the lob where he should be taken off earlier. So, but those are fine because those are all things that are timing and things you can improve on. Those aren't skill sets that, you never learn. He's the level of improvement from last year to this season has been eye-popping. And he's really been a pleasant surprise. And another one of those guys that you just get excited about because, of the cap situation the Celtics are in. It's a nice thing to see. And, how much he plays as the season goes on will be interesting to watch. If he actually passed Cornette, which I think he has, is interesting to watch. But he definitely gives them an element. That's helpful. What are your thoughts on Al Horford so far this year, Mike?
I think it's been up and down. I actually think the last two games, I know that we were texting back and forth that he didn't play great against Brooklyn, but I thought the last two games we started to see a shot fall.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually a good sign. because he's always been such a consistent 3-point shooter. And where he is in his career, I think when his shot's not falling and his rebounding deficiencies have been there for several seasons now. Maybe he's a step slower defensively, but I still think he's a solid player.
Yeah, I think he hit on it. I thought particularly in that Bucks game, he was really, really good. And the thing that stood out to me, and he hit some shots for sure, but the thing that really stood out to me, and he's shooting 43% right now from behind the arc. Did you know that this year? So
No, I would have thought it was lower because I thought
yeah, so like he's still stroking it, and that's despite being 5 for 15 over the last couple of games. So he's shooting 43% from beyond. Yeah, I think you're right about his rebounding, but I thought his defense on Sunday in the second half against Giannis was really, really solid. He stayed in front of him. I give Missoula credit. The Giannis was killing them in single coverage in that first half, and we were texting back and forth whether they needed to double, and it looked like they did. They never did. They stuck with him in single coverage, and Giannis was okay to good in the second half, but he wasn't otherworldly. And the Celtics were able to win, and they did that mostly with Al. And for a guy his age to have to stay in front of a guy like Giannis over a course of, he played 32 minutes. It's pretty impressive. And, really doing it without help either.
Yep.
Which is, there's not many guys in the league that get asked to do that. And good for Al. And I thought he was really good, particularly in that second half. He filled out the stats sheet. There have been times this year, though, if I'm being honest, and I felt this way in the Golden State game, where I've just felt like he's looked old and a little bit slower. But I guess that's going to be par for the course during the season, right? Where there's going to be times where, at 38 years old, or however, 38 years old, where I guess it's going to be a little bit slower. So, but a really impressive game, I thought, versus the Bucks. When coming at a time where I was wondering how much he had left. So
you brought back Tillman with the hope that Al wouldn't have to play 32 minutes against Giannis.
Yeah,
and that when Al looked poor against Golden State, you'd be able to put this guy in. And unfortunately, he's been so bad that you can't put him in at all. And I think that's really something that they have to look at and figure out, because I do think he was supposed to be a part of this regular season rotation to take some of that burden away from Al. And they don't have that. They don't have that guy.
Oh yeah,
Tillman that can stretch the floor even just a little bit offensively, and also defensively do things that Al does, because Queta and Cornette are certainly great backup centers. They really are, but they can't do things that Al can do on the defensive end.
Yeah, he's out of the rotation right now. Maybe on Al's nights off, he might see some minutes, but right now he's completely out of the rotation. You mentioned it, that he's kind of lost confidence, where he's afraid to shoot. So it's going to be interesting what happens. And
I wonder if a little bit that is Missoula too, though. I mean, this guy, I know this offseason we talked about, can he develop his 3-point shot? Right. The Celtics are great at developing players, but this guy's a 28% 3-point shooter for his career. Maybe the Celtics shouldn't be asking him to shoot threes if they want him to be productive the way he can be. Don't you want him to be the guy that can come in and, I got to put him on Luka for a possession or two, or I got to do this?
I think
to me, that's more valuable than anything else.
I think they still feel like they can do that if they have to with him. But if he wants consistent minutes, he needs to find a way to, be at least somewhat of a threat to shoot the ball. And right now he's not. And his defense has been just okay too. But he, some of that is not getting consistent minutes, whatever it is. I thought they would give him some run against Giannis, but they didn't. And he doesn't have a lot of time to kind of curry favor with the coach and get back into the rotation here either. We're looking a little over a month. Well, I guess it's still plenty of time before Porzingis comes back. And once Porzingis is back, you're talking about four guys ahead of you in the rotation. So,
Yeah, and I know Brian Robb brought up too that he thinks that Tillman still has a knee injury.
well, that could be it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that could be it. Well, that would explain a lot.
But and speaking of injuries, I don't know if you saw that Jason Tatum popped up on the report, and somehow the refs didn't see that call, which is amazing to me that they missed that call where we're trying to protect superstars with the amount of superstars that aren't playing in the NBA right now, which is astonishing. The amount of guys that are injured. You'd think they would be protecting Tatum a little bit more, right, Jim?
Yeah, that closeout by Giannis was so reckless, and like the fact that the official is standing right there and it doesn't make the call. I mean, just the way he barreled in to close out, you had to be thinking that he could be underneath him. If you weren't thinking that as the official, you shouldn't be out there. And the official was right on the baseline. She saw the way Giannis closed. And on top of that, you got to have scouting reports in the NBA on these guys. Giannis is a reckless player, and he's reckless on his closeouts. This is not anywhere near the first time he's gone underneath to shoot his foot. Part of that you could say he's too big, but it's clearly something he doesn't work on. And I didn't realize Tatum's on the injury report. That's unfortunate. The way Giannis
Yeah, it popped up
landed,
with an ankle.
yeah, the way he landed on Giannis, it looked like there was potential for the to be a pretty bad sprain. Uh, I just, you know, I don't know how the official didn't see that. I don't, obviously you can't review it if you don't call it. I mean, the fact that they didn't review his elbow to Brown's face, I was kind of okay with. I thought it was just kind of a basketball move, but he's had a lot of borderline plays over the past few seasons around the league. You go back to that breakaway dunk by Booker in the NBA Finals when Giannis, when Booker's in the air and he two hands pushes him in a full sprint. There's been a lot of moments like that. There was a situation in the playoffs a few years ago where Tatum's got the ball out in the perimeter and Giannis just kind of barrels into him. Non-basketball play. I think because he's such a sweetheart in his interviews, and I say that endearing, that he gets a lot of leeway with both the league, the officials, and the media. But this stuff that goes on the court that is really, it's borderline now. It's borderline, and I think that was kind of where Jaylen Brown basically called him a child, or did call him a child, not basically, in his post-game remarks. I think it probably you can draw a line right to that with,
Yeah.
he plays kind of recklessly, and then he, after he elbows you in the face, he does the high school high five where he moves his hand away instead of saying my bad, which is a bit more of a dick move when you factor in the fact that he hit him with an elbow, intentional or non-intentional, right to the face before that. So those are my honest thoughts. I thought it was reckless. It's really too bad that Tatum's on the injury report. I imagine it's not a serious thing, even if he misses tonight, but still, it's too bad.
Yeah, and the injury report's kind of piling up. I don't know what they're going to have available with guys not playing because Al's obviously not going to play both games.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if Holiday's going to get a game off. And then Jalen Springer somehow showed up with a knee. And I was thinking, how do you have a knee injury? You don't play. This could have been an opportunity these next two games for him to get some runs. So we'll see. We'll see who's out there these next two nights. It might be tougher games than we originally thought.
Yeah, maybe, and it's always fun things to watch. So if Tatum doesn't go, I don't think it's a long-term thing. So if he doesn't go tonight, it's fun to watch, see how Jaylen Brown takes on that responsibility of being the man out there. How teams are going to adjust to that with Tatum out. Does Brown see more doubles? How does he respond to those doubles? Is he quickly getting the ball out? Is he attacking downhill? Do the Celtics kind of offset that, put the ball more in Derek White's hands, and let him kind of be the facilitator and run the offense? So yeah, and I think for sure, Horford's going to miss, either tonight or tomorrow night. Probably tonight because no, tomorrow night because tonight's the cup thing, right? Which
Yeah,
makes
so
me
the NBA Cup
yeah,
starts tonight.
which
So
makes me think Tatum.
bet the over on every game.
Yeah, so that makes me think that Tatum is going to find a way out there if they cup things tonight. Um, he doesn't like to miss games, certainly not ones where there's a little bit of added emphasis on.
Yeah, I'm interested to see too. A team's going to be chasing those points early now this year, now that they all know the rules. So obviously
Yeah,
the amount that you win by really matters. So I know last year, this is the only time of year I really bet on sports was last year. I just bet the over on all these games. Um, I know I made out pretty good doing that. So that's my betting advice for the cups. Just bet the over.
yeah, no, it's probably a good idea. I was looking at the line last night for the Celtics. I think it was 15 and a half. Something it's like something you'd never ever see. I wonder if it's, shifted towards the Hawks since last night because Tatum's on the injury report, but it was 15 and a half last night. And give me one sec, I'll take a look at the over, but I was wondering how the Celtics are going to approach it. Like, so last year they did everything they could to run up the score, right? It's
Yeah,
actually
against Chicago.
smaller over under than I thought. It's just 225. Um, they did everything but what do they do this year? Do you keep your guys out there? You just won a championship. This thing, I mean, it's fun if they win it, but really, it's not their goal, right? It's not.
Well, they got guys on the bench that could use that money. So I think that all the teams show up for this stuff.
But is it worth throwing Holiday and White or whomever an extra 4 minutes in? I don't know. You're probably right because there
If
are
you're
guys.
if you're Jordan Walsh, it's worth it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you think that way if you're Joe Mazzulla. I don't know. I think you're
Well,
probably right.
the coaches get that money too, right?
They do. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're Joe Mazzulla, what are you going to tell your assistant coaches? We're not going after this.
Well,
I don't know.
you point to last year, and I think they all probably received a little extra bump because of how they finished. But yeah, no, I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I get excited for it. It's something to pay attention to in the middle of the season, and it gives teams like Detroit and Charlotte a chance to play for something.
yeah,
Um, yeah, Indiana was a surprise team last year, and I don't think it's gonna be I don't think it's gonna be OKC in Boston. I think these teams get cut off along the way because these younger teams are a little bit more hungry, or somebody like LeBron like needs to add to his accolades, so he's gonna go after it. But it'll be interesting to see like who that younger team is that kind of pops up out of nowhere and makes a run. Um, I think it's good for the league.
yeah. No, I think it's pretty good. And let's go around the league quickly. You said OKC, Chet Holmgren now out. At least 8 to 10. I think it's going to be more than that if we're talking hip
Have
fracture.
you seen the list of guys? It's just like
It's ridiculous, and they're already
Pablo
out
Van
of Hardenstein. So last night they were playing Jalen Williams at the center. Um,
hmm
and then they're still able to win against the Clippers.
Well,
But
currently they don't have a guy taller than 6'9" on their roster.
yeah, no, it's a tough set. They need Hardenstein back. Um, but you're right, and I think that's what I was kind of leaning more into is a list of guys around the league that are just out, and none of the names for the most part are surprising, including Chet Holmgren, by the way, who's built like a string bean, and you wonder if this is going to just be over the course of his career, something that happens a lot.
Well,
Within
Pablo in Orlando's never really gotten hurt.
No, that's the one that was most disappointing because he was taking that, Jason Tatum step, I felt like, especially early,
Yep.
his 50-point triple double or close to. Um, yeah, he looked amazing. But the other guys, the guys that, typically you're not surprised to see Zion, you're not surprised to see Embiid on the list. You're not surprised to see Durant at this point in his career. Um, it's I think that's a bigger problem than uh, you know, the aesthetics of this being a 3-point shot league. I think your superstars consistently, the ones you wanted to market, not being able to get on the floor is just a huge problem for the league right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think and it's the list gets bigger every day, and um I don't know what they're supposed to do about it. I mean, John Morant's hurt again.
Yep.
That's a you know that Memphis team, they got a lot of guys down again.
Hmm.
It's just it seems to be repeating itself, and then it's funny how these things work out. I mean, James Harden's playing every game, and Kyrie's playing every game now. I don't understand like what's happened to the league, but yeah, there's too many injuries, and we're lucky here in Boston because our guys play. Our guys play every night almost, and um, but the league certainly has a problem. And I do think it's a mix of both, though. I do think that teams trying to go too far into the analytics when they don't have the talent to do it is a problem.
Yeah.
The opening night statistic was jarring to see. It was like 163s or something like that shot between the two games. Um, that's not fun to watch, and I don't know how they address it. I don't know if they push back the 3-point line a little bit more or they incentivize things better. Baseball made a lot of changes to help their game out. Certainly, the NBA can look at addressing some stuff. They certainly tried to address guys taking nights off, right? With you don't get on first team NBA unless you play, what is it, 70 games, so you can miss 12. I don't know how they address it anymore. I mean, it seems to be a culture thing that these guys don't think it's important to play. For Embiid to say he's not going to play back to backs for the rest of his career, like, are you kidding me? So you're just getting a free pass of not being in shape. Like, I don't understand. He's not Al Horford. He's not 37, 38, 39 years old, however old Al is. It's bad for the league. These guys should be out there playing. They get paid to play. They don't get paid to sit around in suits. And yeah.
Yeah, right now he's sitting his team's a 2-win team that's really on the brink.
Look what it did to Ben Simmons' career. I mean, this is a guy that was all team first defense when he was in Philadelphia. This is a guy who played 30 some odd minutes a game. Like,
yeah, he just never really cared enough, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though. But it's like there's a lot of that, I feel like, in the league. There's a lot of that of I don't know how much these guys care about winning championships with what I see from them. Like, I don't know if Embiid really cares that much about winning a championship. I know he talks about it, but yeah. I don't know. I mean, Zion Williamson, this is ridiculous. They should take away pay, maybe. Like, there's got to be things that they could do to get these guys on the floor.
Well, let's talk about guys that are on the floor, and we'll wrap up this pod. Let's talk about your MVP rankings at this point in the season, which is really, really early. And also, we got to hit on, and I know you've talked about them a lot, but the 12-0 Cleveland Cavaliers, who won another game where they got, a tough challenge from the Bulls last night. So you go where you want to start with those two, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, well, the MVP is Jokic right now. He's put up insane numbers. Like, I don't know how you ignore him. The team's 7-3, so they're not bad. I know people get on him like they're not good anymore. He doesn't have Aaron Gordon on the floor.
I know. He's doing with guys down, too. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you have? Like 38, 15, and 12? Like, nobody's going to, and people are just like, oh, that's not a big number anymore.
He's averaging 30 points and then leading the league in rebounds and assists. It's insane.
So,
it's insane what he's doing.
That's my MVP conversation. Yeah. I know that people like to say Jason Tatum, but he's not in the discussion because nobody is. There's one guy.
Yeah, I think.
I don't know how you would if we're talking about second place, then we can talk about Tatum.
Second, third would be Tatum and Luka, but they're just not. I agree with you. They're not in the stratosphere with this guy right now, and
they never will be. They never will be.
It's
Like,
amazing. It's amazing what he's doing,
yeah.
and he's doing it like you said with guys hurt, and it it's unreal. It really is. How good
And
he
I
is
think,
is unreal.
Donovan Mitchell is in that conversation, obviously, as well as probably
Yeah.
Shea, who had 46 last night, by the way. And guys stepping up around the league, guys that we don't like. I mean, James Harden numbers are, I don't know if you've seen the numbers he's putting up this year. He's averaging almost a triple double in LA.
I watched, I've watched him a couple times though. Yeah, he's the same old James Harden, just a bit slower. He still puts up numbers, but I don't think he's been good. Oh, he's been good,
Yeah.
but he's not you don't go into a game worrying about how do we stop James Harden anymore.
No, no. And as far as Cleveland goes, I take them serious. I know that a lot of people don't because they've had strong starts in the past. They've had hot streaks like this in the past, just not to start the season.
Oh, last season, yeah,
Yeah,
they had a long winning streak. I forget how many games it was, but last season as well. Yeah,
it was like 12 to 15. And
yeah.
I think here's the thing. There's two biggest differences between Cleveland last year and this year to me. First is coaching. I think JD Bickerstaff is a terrible NBA coach. I talked about this on the pod I did by myself after the Detroit game with some of the bizarre decisions he made in that game to help the Celtics win. I thought he made some terrible decisions last year in the playoffs against the Celtics. And I do think that the guy they have now, he was the guy coaching the Nets before Kyrie and Durant ran him out of town. I can't remember his name for some reason. Damn.
Kenny Atkinson.
Yeah, Terry Atkinson. He's a good coach.
Kenny Atkinson.
Kenny, yeah. And he gets the most out of his players. And then Evan Mobley. I think Evan Mobley's gotten better. I think his shots are limited because of the guards that he has on the team. But I think when they are intentional about getting him the ball, they're better. And also defensively, they present problems to most NBA teams because of their size. I do think, however, they can't beat the Celtics in the 7-game series if the Celtics are healthy. I think the only way Cleveland gets to the NBA Finals is if the Celtics have injuries that are and guys can't play, which is possible. I think there's a road for Cleveland to get there if they get a little lucky. But I still don't think they have the wings to stop Jalen and to stop Tatum in a 7-game series. I think that's their kryptonite. Maybe they'll address that. They certainly have contracts on their bench that they could move for a wing player if there's somebody out there. But I just don't think Oroko and Dean Wade and there's somebody else that they have as a wing who's pretty good can cover the Celtics. I think that's where they lose out right now. But if either Tatum or Brown go down, obviously Cleveland's got a shot.
Yeah, I don't think they have much of a shot. Like I get what you mean, but they're playing like Ty Jerome, who's been a really good story. Sam Morril gives them, plays hard. Karis LeVert's another guy that is a wing for them. And Max Strus has been out, which he's actually pretty good defensively when he comes back, so he helps them. But all those guys are under 6'6". And pretty light other than Strus. They are basically the same roster that they had last year, and they're getting the most out of it that they possibly can. I would rank them probably, if all teams are healthy, I would rank them below the Knicks, and I would rank them below the Pacers just on it.
Below the Pacers.
If the Pacers are fully healthy with Miles Turner, yeah, I would. I think the Pacers is just they are scarier to play because the way they can get up and down the floor. They're a tougher matchup for the Celtics than the Cavs are. I just think the Cavs they're a little bit slower. You know what they're going to do offensively. It's going to be built around Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland.
But they haven't been playing that way. They're getting up about 45 to 53s a game.
They're getting up a lot
and they're hitting them at a high clip.
But those guys, you don't really worry about them doing anything off the ball when they catch. They just basically catch and shoot 3-point players. So you can design your defense around stopping Garland and Mitchell, which is tough to do. I'm not saying they're not good. They're good. I just think teams that present problems to the Celtics, they would probably be somewhere fourth and fifth in the East to me. If the Celtics are fully healthy, they have guys too that the Celtics can just target, and that's when you talk about the lack of wings as being a problem. But Darius Garland's a problem for them, and you saw that against the Bulls last night when anytime he was in the game, the Bulls just went directly at him. The Celtics will do that all night long. They'll find switches and they'll attack him, whether it be on the post or get him in screen and roll situations, and know that help has to come. And once help comes, they're going to have a wide open shooter. And of course, the difference between the Cavs wing players and the Celtics wing players is the Celtics wing players can put the ball to the floor and make things happen. I think they're getting the most out of what they can. Kenny Atkinson is doing a really, really good job. Donovan Mitchell is clearly a superstar in this league. You're right about Evan Mobley. They're not a team that would keep me up at night if the Celtics had them in the playoffs. And I know you think I'm crazy with the Pacers, and if the center situation stays what it is, and then they're in trouble, and it doesn't matter. But I think that team, they put pressure on the Celtics, unlike most teams in the league, because of how quickly they play and the way they're able to move, and the multiple guys being able to put the ball to the deck and get to the paint. Where I don't think the Cavs have multiple guys that can put the ball to the deck and get to the paint once you get beyond Garland and Mitchell.
Well, LeVert and Jerome have been able to do that so far this season through 12 games. They're both averaging double figures off the bench. I think they have 3 guys in Cleveland coming off the bench scoring more than 10 points a game right now. When I look at Indiana, I know that they played great against Boston this year. Outside of Boston, I don't think their pace of play has been anywhere close to what they were last year, and I think it's because of the Pascal Siakam trade. I think that Siakam's played well against Boston, but I don't know how much he fits in. I'm not a big believer in what he brings to what they're trying to do. It makes me wonder if Indiana's even the same team. And so I want to keep an eye on that. I know you mentioned, Jackson and Miles Turner are hurt right now, but in Nimyard, he hasn't been the same player that he was last year either since he got his contract. So I'd keep an eye on Indiana to see where they actually are at the end of the season, because I haven't seen, when I watch them on NBA League Pass, I don't see them playing with that same pace of play that they had that made them so effective against other NBA teams. Outside of like Boston and the Knicks, they've been slower.
Yeah,
and they haven't been defending the 3-point line as well as they did last year either.
They have been great, and they went through periods through the regular season last year where they've struggled. I'm just talking strictly against matchup against the Celtics, and they play them really well. That 4-game series last year was a really difficult 4-game series, like a really difficult and there were games where the Pacers, certainly 3 of them, you can point to and say, wow, they should have or could have won if they were, better with the basketball down the stretch and they weren't so loose, and they had a little bit more experience. Maybe if Halliburton was available in Indiana, they call.
Yeah, but outside their style of play, like, they don't have guys at the end of games who can hold on to these leads or close games out.
That comes with experience. I think, you've seen that with Mitchell now, right? He used to really struggle in the playoffs, and that doesn't happen anymore. He's really, really good. Maybe that happens with Halliburton, maybe it doesn't. But they were right in there without a superstar against the Celtics last year. I think it's style of play. I think they defend well, or can defend well when they're locked in, and they did that to the Celtics. And they have a number of guys that can do things that bother the Celtics a lot. I think the Cavs will have a better record. I think the Cavs might even make it further than the Pacers in the playoffs. But I wouldn't sit here and lose sleep if it's an Eastern Conference Finals of the Cavs Celtics, and I would probably come out here and I predict that it would go 5 or maybe 6, because I just don't think the Cavs have the horses to really match up against these guys. Whereas I think Indiana has proven that and has shown multiple times now that they can give the Celtics really big time fits.
All right. Well, we got 2 games coming up here, Jim. Go back to back, and then we play Cleveland. When is it? Next week, right?
Yeah, which should be a lot of fun. I'm sure Cleveland will give the Celtics more than they can hit. Well, not more, but their best shot anyways. So
Well, Cleveland's going to come into the game 15-0.
they very well
Is what
could.
their record's going to be. Yeah. So, all right. Well, we'll look forward to that, and we'll get back on the pod again later on this week.
All right, I'll see you.